Hey, it's Dougie fresh in the flesh, here to give you my best to the last breath. Yes, sizzling and delivering with zeal and zest to help you on your quest of becoming your best and to keep you in check. I'm here to knock you out your comfort nest once again, my friend, because I'm with my new friend here, Michael Sartain. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing outstanding today at the Muscle Mansion. It's a blessing to be here. How are you doing today?
Really good, man. This is a really great house for working out. And just like the view, even if you're not trying to meditate, like when you look at the view, especially through the kitchen, it just kind of takes your breath away and it brings you into the moment. So this house is amazing.
Touche. It pulls you to the present moment so powerfully, and you can't take it for granted. I've been here for a week now, and it still has a newness, a sense of awe. It's so awe-inspiring to be here, and it's a blessing. And as you can see, the view is just spectacular. Let's tell them about what you do first.
Well, I am the marketing director and the junior partner for Viva Vegas TV and the Future Media Group. And so what we do is our core position is we sell events to corporations and to casinos in Las Vegas. So nightlife events, day life events, corporate events for like CES or SEMA or something like that. People would come into town and they'd want to throw an event where they could show off their product or their service to their customers or their other employees. That's our core position. Then in addition to that, we have YouTube channels where we do interviews. So a lot of our events will have celebrities like Phil Heath, four-time Mr. Olympia. We'll have Nia Sanchez, who is was Miss USA. Ty Lopez is, we've interviewed him also. And so those are the two kind of things that we do with Viva Vegas TV and Future Media. I'm also an options trader. I read a lot of books. I have a book club that a lot of people know about, so I do that also. I used to be a dating coach. That's how I know Owen and a lot of the guys here at the Muscle Mansion. But now I'm actually the host of the Great Love Debate, which is it's run by a guy named Brian Howe. And last night we had Patty Stanger from Millionaire Matchmaker. She was there as one of the other hosts of the Great Love Debate. So I'm going to be the host of the Great Love Debate all around the country this next year. We have 200 cities booked for this next year, and so I'm also looking forward to that. So I do a lot of things. Yeah. It's kind of hard to describe. Yeah,
that's some stupendous stuff there. A lot of cool things. And the book club, tell me more about that.
Oh, well, it was one of these things. Obviously, Ty Lopez was the one who inspired me to do it. I started the book club when I had planned that I was going to do an interview with Ty. I talked to Owen, and he set it up where I could get an interview with him. We brought our own camera equipment, but as you know, Ty has some awesome stuff. So he had a C100 down in his library, with lavs already hooked up. So we used his equipment, and it came out fantastic. It was a little bit over an hour long. I had to do very little editing because Ty, was fantastic, and both of us are very spontaneous. And for me, it was like, because I had read something like 44 books in Ty's book club, I talked to him a lot about that. And I still personally believe that it's the best interview of Ty Lopez that anyone's ever done. So you guys can definitely go check that out if you check out Ty Lopez and Michael Sartain.
Yeah. I saw that interview. It was very, very good. And I told you when I saw you what stuck out to me, and is that was this, that nobody cares what you do really. And that might sound like not a great thing, but it's actually a very freeing thing. It gives you a lot of personal freedom in your mind to express yourself and get out of your shell. And what he basically talked about was you could act a fool for a little bit, or you could make a mistake, get rejected, fail in front of people, and 6 months later, a week later, most people wouldn't even notice. And that is encouraging and empowering to people. And it seems disempowering, disencouraging, but it's actually the opposite.
It's funny because I have had other radio hosts and I've had other business partners who are very, very concerned about the way they come off. Like, they don't want to be too available, or they don't want to seem like they do things that are beneath them. And I keep trying to explain to them, like, the only reason why people pay attention to us at all is because we can help them solve their problems. I'm sure there's a few people that do care specifically about what happens in our lives. But for the most part, being in the self-help community, for the most part, they want you to help them solve their problems. And as long as you do that, then they'll pay attention. But the fact that you do that and then you have some tax scandal, or you get caught cheating on your wife, or you scream too loud in a nightclub, or you get too drunk, those things come and go. Like, when you think about the fact that, Donald Trump has filed for bankruptcy twice and now he's running for president of the United States, we all seem to forget that.
Yeah, perfect example.
It's like people don't care that much. And here's the thing, A great example is if you look at, I guess, clout, which is not really scientific, or if you look at Twitter and Instagram followers, Justin Bieber is probably the most famous person in the world, and or Barack Obama. And the thing is, how many times did Justin Bieber affect you in your life this week? And the answer is
Never.
He didn't. So if he's the most famous person in the world, and he didn't affect your life, why do you think that you're going to mess up making your YouTube video or approaching a girl or with your business prospectus or with your pitch or with your job interview?
Hell yeah.
Like, how do you think that that's really going to affect the overall world or the overall scheme of things? And the answer is probably not, because people are so self-absorbed, especially now with so much social media and the diversification of people's attention. People don't have time to care that much about the things that you do. If you think about all the humiliating and crazy things that Kanye West and Kim Kardashian have done, and we don't seem to care at all. You know, we seem to treat them exactly the same. So nobody cares. Yeah. And it is very liberating when you realize that nobody really cares. They don't. Now, if you put yourself up on a pedestal like, what's his name? Jimmy Stewart, I believe that was his name, the evangelical preacher, or Robert Tilton, or someone like that, and make yourself sort of like a paragon of virtue, and then you get caught cheating on your wife, then you get what's coming to you, because you chose to make yourself famous by judging other people. But if you want to help other people improve and you screw up in your video, no one cares. No one will remember. When I go back and I think about all the crazy things that maybe I've said in other videos, that I was like worried before, like, oh, that might be misconstrued or taken out of context, and I certainly have had things taken out of context that I've said before. But in the end, like, it's one comment on one YouTube video, and nobody cares. Nobody really cares. It does not affect. It does not really affect anything that goes on. You know.
Thank you. That was very liberating. Dropping some knowledge bombs, because liberating. You said it. Because a lot of people, it stops them from taking action.
Yes.
Because of that very same reason, and that gives you permission.
They think they're not ready. You know, it's not just that they don't think they're good enough. They're like, I'm not ready. I don't have the best camera equipment. I need better audio equipment. I need to get in better shape. I need to read another book about entrepreneurship or pickup or fitness or something like that. I need to read the next book, and then I'll be ready, and then I'll start and take action. And again, it's liberating when you realize that nobody cares. Yeah. And then in addition to the fact that nobody cares, the idea that most people screw up. Most successful entrepreneurs have 3 or 4 failed businesses before they get to the one that's successful. So when you realize, hey, let me get that failed business out of the way so that I get a greater chance of being successful, then you really realize, hey, not only does no one care, but it's likely that I'm going to screw up, and it's just going to be a learning experience.
Totally, 100%. That's why I always say, instead of ready, aim, fire, just fire, then aim, fire, then aim, fire, then aim, then you're ready. So like for me, I started making videos in college, and I just saw everyone else making videos, and I want to do it, so I just did it, and I put it on Facebook at first, and I got some positive feedback. Then I mustered up the courage to put it on YouTube, and no one said really anything bad. And Brandon Boucard actually has something he says at his seminars, and it's that he asked like the thousands of people out there, how many of you have been rejected so bad that it hurt you in such a negative way that changed your life? And out of all these like 40 or 50 year olds, they raised their hand, and it was like one person. And then he asked them, how many people have positively impacted your life? And it was hundreds, but we have this negativity bias that affects us.
Yeah, I mean, psychologically, it's really funny, because I was just reading Fooled by Randomness by Nassim Taleb, who I'm a big fan of, even though I disagree with his ideology financially, or his financial strategies I disagree with. But the thing is that he talks about is, like, if I go through life and I have just as many ups as downs, psychologically the downs affect me more. So the net, I will have a net negative life. So, but that's the thing you have to understand as a human being, is like you will make $1,000 and then screw up something that loses 1,500 and then beat yourself up for the rest of the day. Like, that's kind of how we look at it. I know guys that are successful with 10 girls in a row, screw up with one, and then their heart's broken, and then all of a sudden they're back to square one, and they have no They have no, confidence anymore.
Right.
I know guys that were in fantastic shape. Maybe they tear their ACL or they go through a bad breakup and they get out of shape, and their confidence is completely gone because that one negative pang outweighs like 2, 3, 4 positive pangs. And so you have to be wary of that. But also when you, again, just like when you're aware of the fact that nobody cares, when you're aware of the fact that your psychology puts more weight to the negatives than the positives, when you're aware of that, then you can transcend it and you can get around it. But what you said before about, just fire, right? Just do the thing.
Yeah.
A big shortcut to doing things right is to find mentors. And I know you were going to talk about that before. For me, in everything I do, there's someone that was doing it better than me, and then I copied it, from the way I dress to the way I speak to the way I make videos to my fitness, everything. Entrepreneurship. The guy who's teaching me options trading is Tony Batista and Tom Sosnoff. The guy who teaches me weight training is Sidney Wilson. The guy who teaches me networking and network marketing is Luke Crow. There's always a different – those guys are further along than me. Owen Cook definitely taught me how to use the cameras and edit on Adobe Premiere. Like, there's always going to be a mentor to teach me how to do those things faster. So, yes, I'm still going to take action, and I'm still going to go ahead and make those screw-ups. But the more important thing is that if I have those mentors there, and this is where people really screw up. I have a mentor who's giving me a blueprint on how to do it right. There may be several different ways to do it right, but I know this way he's doing it is one of those ways to do it right. And instead of doing it exactly the way he does it for 10,000 hours, like Malcolm Gladwell says, instead of doing that for 10,000 hours, we say, oh, that's how he does it? I get it. And then we make up our own shit. And we do that and we screw up and then we get frustrated. Oh, it didn't work the way that I thought it was. No, because you didn't practice doing it the right way for 10,000 hours. And then once you do that, then afterwards, it gets better and better. I still have, another 9,000 hours with this camera to get just exactly perfect the way I want to shoot. And to do my interviews, that's another thing. Like, I want to practice and become better and better at that for Viva Vegas TV, my company. So, that I look at people for instance, for my interviews, I look at Charlie Rose, I look at Dylan Radigan. Those are the two people that really influence me the most as far as interviews. So mentors in every area of life. A good way to do that is through books, obviously. Another way that wasn't really available to us 15 years ago are a cornucopia of YouTube videos on every possible subject that you can imagine. In addition to that, classes on iTunes U, podcasts. There's so many ways for you to learn from mentors that you never actually meet. Although I do recommend meeting them, trying to meet them. I would love to hang out with Eckhart Tolle, if I could ever meet the guy. But at the same time, I still have the blessing of being able to read his books whenever I need to, and in the palm of my hand or in my phone.
Right. Wow, a lot of great things there. First of all, the ups and downs you talked about, it also gives us contrast to appreciate it. So that's why it's key to practice gratitude. And also, what you were saying recently about mentors, that's huge. Anything could be a mentor as well. So yeah, YouTube videos have been huge. That's where I started. I learned so much off YouTube. That's what you guys are doing now. And pat yourself on the back when you do that. Mentors can be people in our lives. It could even be, I even say it could be animals, right? It could be the sun reminding you to shine, the flowers reminding you to stop and smell the roses in life, the frog on the lily pad telling you to reflect, the dog and cat reminding you to be present because you see how present they are, like thousands of things. And then also the guy riding the bike wearing the helmet. There's just tons. So find mentors in person as well. That's what I'm doing. I'm seeking out mentors. So make a plan to do that. How have you sought out some of your mentors?
For me, there has been the self-help community, just endless number of books, both reading the books and audiobooks, an endless number of YouTube videos. I'm looking for expertise. I'm looking for who the expert is in a certain area. For a personal trainer, I need somebody face-to-face. So, I found Sydney Wilson, who lives in Las Vegas. I also do a lot of Mike Chang's workouts. I'm probably going to start doing some of Brandon Carter's and Mark Damas since I've become friends with those guys. For finance, for me, it was just like the idea of selling premium, of being an options trader makes so much sense to me mathematically that I go with the guys who have the best reviews there, which is Tom Sosnoff and Tony Batista from TastyTrade.com. They're the guys who made the Thinkorswim platform and then sold it to TD Ameritrade for $606 million. So they have expertise in that area. So I follow them and try to understand what it is they do. As far as listen, Tai Lopez has never sent me wrong. He's never done me wrong as far as recommending a book. So if I need a book that I want to read and I can't think of anyone, although I'm not having a problem with that because right now I've got a big backlog of books that I need to get through. But at one time when I was like, what do I need to read next? I go to Tai Lopez, tailopez.com/books, and there's a list of his favorite books. And so I made my list. I have 145 books on my list,
Excellent.
just like his, of the books that resounded, that resonate with me the most. So in all those different areas, I try to find somebody who, through word of mouth, for instance, for me, I'm reading The Origin of Species by Charles Darwin right now. And there are several different copies of it because books written before 1923 are open source and anybody can use them, right? So there's several. Same thing if you got the full works of William Shakespeare or Arthur Doyen. The Sherlock Holmes books. Mm-hmm. If you get those books, there's several different copies of them. So I go through and I'm like, which copy has got the most reviews? Yes. Right? It'll be things like that'll tilt me towards where the expertise probably is, and then I can make my own decisions from there. So that's generally how I do it, as far as all those things are concerned. I'm always searching to try to learn new stuff. And then when I find a topic that I like, I obsess over it, and then maybe 200-300 hours of just focused attention on, learning how the right way to lift weights, learning, focus on studying my diet, focus on a different subject. For me recently, it's been standard deviation statistics, basically quantitative finance has been the thing that I've been focused on for the last year. So those things, you find someone in that area who clearly has the expertise, and then here's the thing: you have to take some humility to really follow him, not just watch a couple of videos, but to actually implement what it is that he does. There's a woman named Karen Bruton. She won Woman of the Year from Wake Forest University because she's given so much money to charity. And the way she's done it is she's created a fund where she started with $100,000 and turned it into $150,000. Her boss gave her $6 million. And the next thing she knows, she's managing $300 million. She turned $140 million into $300 million, all from trading options on the Standard & Poor's 500. And her story is incredibly motivating, especially when you realize she's in her 50s and she just started this business in her 50s. And then when you see something like that, you're like, can I do something like that? Right. Well, here's the thing. I know someone has done it. So it's just like the second African American who runs for president. I know someone's done it, so I know there is a chance it can be done, and so it gives you a lot more confidence that you can go through. So what's the best strategy? Let's start with the strategy that worked. We at least know that worked, and then we can sort of critique our strategy from there.
Right, like Roger Bannister running I believe it was a 3-minute mile. And once he did it, 4-minute mile, everybody started doing it.
Yeah, the same thing when Michael Johnson broke the world record in the 200 in the 96 Olympics in Atlanta. 4 of the other competitors broke the old world record in that race because they knew it could be done.
They knew it could be done. So that's empowering. Find anything you want to do. It has been done before. So that's very inspiring. So find out how they did it. Read up on them. Read the biography. Like Michael and Ty do, they go straight to the top and model what they do. And if you do that long enough, you could remix it and remold it. Elliot Hulse talks about this a lot, about just grabbing different stuff and making it unique to who you are, and then embrace that. There's a great book on this. It's called Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. And he just talks about it's okay to take and copy and steal. Pablo Picasso says, good artists copy, great artists steal.
Of course, yeah. I mean, that's certainly that's the case. But the thing is, in the case of self-help, there's nothing new. Right. If the case of weight training, there's nothing new. Finance, there's a couple of new things now because of the technology, but for the most part, you'll find that in a lot of these areas, especially like psychology, physics, there's not a lot that's really new, but people don't like the boring answer. The boring answer is in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The boring answer is in Think and Grow Rich. The boring answer is in Who Moved My Cheese. The boring answer is in How to Make Friends and Influence People. The boring answer is in The Power of Now. But people don't like those boring answers. And so when you look on Facebook and you look on YouTube and you look at some of this internet marketing that's going on and these email blasts, they're offering things that they say, oh, well, no one's ever figured this idea out, which is, of course, ridiculous. And then they're like, well, do this and pay $19.95 for my monthly subscription, and then I'm going to change your life. And the thing is what they're saying wrong? Listen, if what they're saying is right, then they got it from a book that was written, 100 years ago, and they're just copying the same methodology. They're packaging a boring thing in an interesting way, but really the right answer to becoming a successful entrepreneur, to getting into shape, to being good with women or being good in relationships, to being financially independent is the same answer that people have been using for 100 years, and it's a boring answer. And a lot of times, people do not want to submit their ego enough to do the boring thing. They don't like that idea. They become very impatient. I'm about to read the marshmallow test about Dr. Michel. Dr. Michel's marshmallow test, the idea that, delay gratification, you had one of the people working in the test would come in with one marshmallow on the table and tell, anywhere from 5 to 12-year-old child, hey, if you don't eat this marshmallow when I leave, when I come back, I'm going to give you 2 marshmallows, 5 marshmallows, a bunch of cookies or whatever. The children that were able to delay gratification and not eat the marshmallow when the Confederate left the room, those children down the road all showed higher SAT scores, longer marriages, higher incomes, better quality of life, because their ability to delay gratification was the single most positive indicator of whether or not they would be successful in life. Not their intelligence, right? Not their good looks, not what family they were born into, not their work ethic, but their ability to delay gratification. And like I said before, the boring answer doesn't allow you to delay gratification. You don't want to do the boring answer. If the answer is in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, oh, that's an old book, I don't want to read that. The answers in there are so boring, I don't want to do those things. Well, you have to delay that gratification. Instead of trying to make up your own way, you have to do the way that has been shown, that has been lit for you. And then 10,000 hours of doing it the right way, then you can make up your own stuff. Unfortunately, that's not the way most people work. Unfortunately, the way most people work is they kind of have some 1% understanding of like the way you're supposed to do things right, and they think from that they understand the way to do things right, and then they just make up their own shit. And when they do that, they find themselves unsuccessful, and then they're like, yeah, that stuff I read in the book, it didn't work. Like, no, you didn't do it right. And you didn't do it right for 10,000 hours so that you could become an expert in it.
Right, and the encouraging thing about the willpower, it can be cultivated, it can be developed, and it's also, like you said, making it habitual is very key. So The One Thing is another great book that we're going to talk about to help you on that path. So if you focus on one thing, it helps a lot. Nobody wants to do that. Again, it's a boring thing, but it's very powerful. If you chase 2 rabbits, you won't catch one. So we try and multitask. That's an ineffective thing to do as well. So The One Thing, talk a little bit about that. You mentioned earlier that you like that book a lot.
Again, that book, The One Thing by Gary Keller, it's the number 2 book on my list, second most influential book to me. And the thing that was so great about that book is the idea that when you read it, it empirically just makes so much sense. But when I give that book to people, when I recommend it to them, a lot of times, especially the people who have a hard time delaying gratification, it drives them insane. The idea that you're supposed to just focus on one thing for 4 hours every day. How boring is that, right? That's the boring answer that they don't want to hear. Like I said before, there aren't a whole lot of new innovations in the way we deal with our psychology, right? The way we deal with relationships, the way we deal with fitness and exercise, the way entrepreneurs are successful. Yes, there are small changes, but the overall methodology tends to be the same. Right, diet and exercise. Again, that's the boring answer nobody wants to hear when it comes to getting in shape. Nobody wants to hear the idea. Nobody wants to hear study, hard work, putting lots of hours and several failures. No one likes to hear those ideas when it comes to entrepreneurship. No one likes to hear that because that's the boring answer that nobody wants to do. So that's the thing that I've seen, and I can tell very quickly. Although I try never to discourage people, but I can tell very quickly when someone has an idea that sounds good to them, And when someone has an idea who sounds good to other people, because they understand the principles of marketing, they're trying to meet a need, they're trying to fill a void, fill a niche. And most of my friends, when they have ideas for businesses, I know when they're going to fail because they don't think about the demand side of it. They only think, I wish there was a club that looked like this. I wish there was a YouTube channel that looked like that. Well, it doesn't matter what you wish, really. It matters is what other people watch. And they're very unrealistic about what other people watch, which goes back to our first point, which is nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like if your YouTube channel, your product, your service doesn't solve someone's problem, that could be making them laugh, to looking at pretty girls, to whatever, to figuring out how to put together a motherboard on a computer. No matter what, it has to solve a problem, and then people will watch. And if it doesn't, it's kind of funny. Like these video games that entertain people, that's like the biggest thing on YouTube now, is that watching these people play video games, right? So when you think about that, why is it that there's all these people watching? Because they want to learn how to solve the problems on these video games. You're solving one of their problems. Right. I know it seems crazy, but it works, and it's huge. It's like next to music, people watching other people play video games is the biggest thing on YouTube. So it's been a huge change. And when you make products for you, they don't work. When you make products for your customer, that's the only way you're going to have a chance of having it work.
Right. Yeah. Problem solving. Solve a problem. If you want to have a successful YouTube channel, business, that's a key thing. So another thing I've learned about being around all these successful people around here is that a lot of success seems to be debunking of myths. So we think it's one thing, but I'm learning out like maybe it's you have to have this idea, and you take your time and you figure it out. Well, some of the successful people here, they have an idea, they execute it right away. And you mentioned earlier about taking risks. We think that's all of success, but it's not. So success is a big thing about debunking myths.
Well, I mean, it's a lot to do with preparation. A lot of times people become prepared and they understand the niche that they're trying to attack because they had a 40-hour a week, a 60-hour a week, a 9-to-5 job that was boring, and they were able to identify it that way. I meet so many entrepreneurs that choose entrepreneurship because they want the easy way out. Entrepreneurship is not the easy way out. It's the hard way out. You have no top cover. You are escaping a 40-hour work week to go into a 100-hour work week. If you want to be successful. I meet people who have ideas every week and they never execute them. I have people, like I said before, I know who have ideas that are for them but not for their customer. And you see the same thing over and over again. The E-Myth is a great book where they talks about being prepared beforehand for the success, for the massive amount of success that you want, and having an idea that's scalable. That's one of the problems. One of my businesses, I have to be there for everything. And so it's not scalable. And that's a problem for us. Now, I love doing this so much that I'm not going to quit doing it.
Exactly. But the process is purposeful, and that gives you a lot of meaning and energy.
Absolutely. But I can't scale this business because I can't replicate myself. So that's a difficulty. So in another business I don't have that problem. I can replicate myself. So there's all these different things. Again, the answer is boring. The answer is study, preparation. Nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants to fly by the seat of their pants. Oh, I have a great idea for this app. They wake me up in the middle of the night. Yo, bro, I got the great idea for this app. It'll kill, man. It'll kill. And I'm like, you might have 100 people download that app for free, maybe, and they don't want to hear that because they think it was such a great idea in their head. And when they actually understand the level of resources, time, and effort that it would take in order to put that into implementation, and realize they'd have to do it all themselves. There's no secret people that are just going to come out of nowhere. This idea from the 4-hour work week that you're just going to get some virtual assistant from Indonesia to do all your work for you is just preposterous. It's not true, and it's all it's done is it's raised the standard of living in Indonesia and made a lot of entrepreneurs a lot poorer. It's ridiculous. There are certain things that, yes, a virtual assistant can help you do, but these people want virtual assistants to run their businesses for them, and it just doesn't work that way. The 4-hour a week drop shipping company with the virtual assistant from China, that doesn't exist. That time is over now. Everyone's tried that. Now people want things immediately. They want it quickly. And if you have a great idea, you might make some money for a little while, and then YouTube and Amazon.com will suck all the alpha out of whatever your business is. There will never. This is a great point. There's a way that some guys are marketing on YouTube right now where they're paying for clicks. And what's happened is if you try to grow on YouTube organically, you're always going to be behind in line of those guys. There will never be another PewDiePie. There will never be another Jenna Marbles ever, because it's all about pay for clicks now. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but the game has changed. That what's happened is these big companies have seen how people have grown organically, and now they're taking even that away from you.
Wow.
So it gets even more competitive. And so everyone wants to try to start to do something different, and they don't understand that what they're doing isn't different. I can't tell you how many times I've had someone come to me with a business idea, and I was like, have you researched whether or not anyone else is doing this? A simple YouTube check would show them. And they don't. They absolutely don't. They don't check to see whether it's in the App Store or whether there's a YouTube video or a Kickstarter already on the way. And what I found, I took a class from Stanford Online. It was venture capital, entrepreneurship through the eyes of the venture capitalist. And in the class, what I noticed was that it's the same guys lending money to the same guys over and over again. Like, you have a great idea and you get one of these guys in your company to be your CEO, and because he knows all the other venture capitalists and he knows how much money things are going to take. And again, people don't want to do that. They just want to go out there with some half-assed idea and get free money out of it and just think that they're going to make a lot of money. The more constructive way, like I said before, you're going to have to hunker down and become an expert in whatever field it is, bring your passion to it, and then, whatever that product is, you're going to have to realize you're going to have to work hard. And a lot of people don't want to believe that. They want that app that just makes money while they sleep. Well,
Right.
A lot of work goes into that before you get to that point.
Okay. See, I'm learning a lot here. I hope you guys are too. That's a lot of stuff I just learned there. I'm excited to watch this again, to take notes on this. It's so good. All right, top 3 favorite books.
For me, the number one is The One Thing. Number one is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Number 2 is The One Thing by Gary Keller. And number 3 right now is The Happiness Hypothesis by Jonathan Haidt. That would be number 3, because to me, I've been able. My own peace of mind, positive psychology, which is a new study that's recently come about, my own peace of mind, my own happiness is as important to me, or far more important to me than money is. And I meet a lot of very successful entrepreneurs where that clearly isn't the case. It's like, I make a lot of money and then I go do a bunch of cocaine and get prostitutes. Like, no, that's not taking care of your soul. That's not fixing your psychology. That's a crutch. And so my own personal well-being, my own spiritual well-being is very important to me. So The Happiness Hypothesis by Jonathan Haidt, a fantastic book that really helped me to kind of understand certain things. And it's interchangeable. There's so many other great books. Like Who Moved My Cheese could be in the top 3. Okay. Why Women Have Sex is such a fantastic book. It's so enlightening to me because
I've not read that or
it's
heard
such
of
a
that
great.
yet.
It's by David Buss and Cindy Meston.
Oh, David Buss.
Yeah, that book is so incredible, and I just think it gets overlooked so much because people always read The Evolution of Desire, which is another great book.
Right.
But man, Why Women Have Sex is such a great book for me because I was so confused by the opposite sex for a long time, and now it's like, well, I don't know all the answers, but nothing confuses me anymore. That's such
terrific.
a great book. And then of course the biographies. The Snowball, Warren Buffett. I would tell everybody to read Confidence Game, the book about Bill Ackman. Man, that book will make you angry at the SEC, but it's such a great book. Fooling Some of the People All the Time by David Einhorn is another great book. These are of course books on finance, but then 11 Rings by Phil Jackson, probably the most underrated biography that's ever written. It's so fantastic because it takes the 2 most important things in life, which are meditation and basketball. Those 2, that's what the book is about. And at least they're the most important things in my life. And so that book is just irreplaceable in my top 10. So,
excellent. The Happiness Hypothesis, I'm definitely going to read. That's my next one. The Power of Now, I heard you mention it as your favorite. That's why I brought it up to ask your top 3 and share it with everybody. So I got it here with me, The Power of Now. Let's talk about it. Why do you love it? Why is it your number 1 favorite book?
I was in a really bad place. It's funny. I recommend that book to a lot of people, and it's very clear, early on, like if this book doesn't make any sense to you, you haven't suffered enough. Like there's a
Right.
good number of people that I recommend the book to, and they're like, I don't get it, and it's because you haven't suffered enough. It's like you can keep going through your life, and your large amount of suffering is enough to where like it's not worth giving up who you are. And the book is about giving up who you are. The book is about giving up your identity. When I realized, again, it kind of goes back to nobody cares. When I realized that if you hear nobody cares and that makes you sad, you're still holding on to your identity. When you hear nobody cares and it makes you feel free, liberated, that means I can let go of my identity. I'm free. When I realized that my ego wasn't there to make me happy, it's just there to create an identity for me. When I realized that the only way we can be happy, the idea that we're happy in the future and the past is just a manifestation. It's just our imagination in the now. And so when I realized that, it just lifted such an incredible burden off my chest. I stopped trying to qualify myself. I don't need to brag about things.
Right.
I don't need to convince people that I am a certain way or try to always convince people to my point of view. Last night I watched two of the hosts from the event that I was at just argue with each other the whole time. And do I think one of them was right and one of them was wrong? Maybe. But I realized that my point of view, my perspective is just my perspective. It's one of the 7 billion people on this planet. It's one of the 110 billion Homo sapiens that have ever walked this planet. And so it's not that important. And so I'm liberated by that fact. If your
Very
ego,
mature, very aware and conscious for that.
if it hurts you to think that your perspective is just a small one, then your ego is still too big. But if you're like me and I just realize like how freeing is it that nobody cares, that means I can go right now back here and go meditate in these woods back here in Runyon Canyon and nobody cares. And I'm free to do that. I'm free to read whatever book I want. Like, no, it doesn't matter. When you realize that, how liberating that is, and realize that I don't have to do things for other people. And at the same time, I realize that everyone else is part of the same, cosmic energy, whatever you want to call it, string theory or a soul or whatever you want to call it. When you have that realization that separateness is just an illusion from other people, then it makes you feel love for other people, love for the world. And that's why that book was just so fantastic for me. It was also a reinterpretation or a clarification of the New Testament of the Bible for me. It was a clarification of Buddhism for me. So that book is just really fantastic. And again, I'm going to recommend it to people, and I will say 1 out of 6 of them will get it, and the other 5 out of 6 will have not suffered enough to understand what the book is about. But to me, it's the most important book.
Yeah, I appreciate the suffering I had because I could get so much from that book. And the theme of this video is going to be on the nobody cares mindset that gives you that liberation. And I think that's the thing that gives us that freedom, is that the power of now talks about the identity. The reason you don't take action is because of your identity. That's why you don't take that action. And the power of now shows that it's not, you don't have it, you're not your thoughts. And that gives you that freedom to expand.
When I was a dating coach, I used to make my students go into a bar and just start howling and barking. And I was like, hey, guess what? You didn't get kicked out.
Hell yeah.
No one cares. No one cares that you were screaming. No one cares. Like, when those two people were fighting at the event I was at last night, I was joking with the other panelists. I'm like, I bet I could take my clothes off right now. And no one cares. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
It really is that way. And if you surround yourself with people who you think care, who are very judgmental, I know your parents care. I know that there are some people that do care, obviously. But for the most part, if you surround yourself with people who it just makes so much of a difference what you do and how your actions are, get away from those people. They have no positive energy for you.
Advice.
There is nothing positive. There's nothing constructive from that.
Yeah. Okay. Huge. Thing about identity that I've done that has helped me a lot. Instead of looking at my feelings, this is what most people do, I find. People have their feelings, and their feelings create their actions and their behaviors. Yeah. And then that creates their identity. What I've done and what a lot of successful people do is you have your identity first, and then you take actions from that identity, then you have your feelings. So I'm like my identity, I choose it deliberately, intentionally, that I'm inspiring. I am a risk taker. I am a giver, and I take the actions, then I have the great feelings that come from that. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if you can be present in this moment, which, by the way, meditation and being present in the moment, same thing, then you can take right action. There's an intelligence that's underneath your cognition that will help you to take the right action.
I've been doing meditation every day. I talk about it on my channel a little bit, and I encourage others to do it. I've been recently skimming over the power now, and a cool thing I saw was this, that there is no problem in this moment.
Right.
There's no problem. We don't have no problem with the camera. Maybe in the future, maybe in the past, and that allows your shoulders to drop, allows your voice tonality to change, and it's very, very powerful. So I wanted to ask you about your successful habits that serve and support you, and especially meditation, how that has helped you.
So I actually have the same belief that Eckhart Tolle does. This formal idea of meditation, like people actually going to studios to meditate or like specific places, that's not. I'm not saying that meditation doesn't work, because it does. My point is, like, I can go into this pool, this empty pool over here, and just sit there right now and meditate. I can actually meditate and drive. Meditation is about being more aware, not less aware. Some people think that meditating is becoming a zombie. That is not it. If you listen to the parable about the monks, where the students were sitting there and they're supposed to meditate, and the teacher would sneak up on them and whack them on the back of the head, and the students were like, "Why'd you do that?" And like, "You didn't hear me sneaking up." Your meditation is supposed to make you more aware, not less aware. Yeah. And when you become more aware and fully in the present moment, that's when you can escape the noise. The noise that comes from your identity that's in your brain, and actually get to the right action and find the right answer to what it is that you want to do. And it's just so empowering when you realize, like you said, that there is no problem in this moment. As far as habits, for me, the habits that I have, I hired a trainer because I realized that in order to find the habitual methodology that I need in order to get in shape, I do need some motivation from someone else on certain days.
Yeah, way to set yourself up to win.
Yeah. The other habit I have is every day I get up and the first thing I do is I watch videos that are educational, that have to do with, for instance, again, right now I'm studying quantitative finance like crazy. So that's pretty much the first 3 hours of my day. There's always an audio book going in my car, and then there's always a book I'm reading. So I stopped listening to music. There's constantly something going on in my headphones. If you ever see me out, you'll always see that I have my headphones in, and I'm always listening to something that can better my life, future my business, my well-being, my health, whatever, my relationships. So those are the main things that I have. And then the other habit that I found, and this is kind of all-encompassing, is I do things for people for free, and I don't ask for anything in return. And I found that for whatever reason, I don't know if it's karma or whatever it is, but if you take that ideology, good things just keep happening to you when you can do that. When you can just keep doing things for people and not asking for anything in return, you'll just find that the dynamic, I don't want to use foo-foo words like energy, but the dynamic that you create, the mechanics that you create will just bring people into your life that want to help you. Yeah.
That's great stuff. I had recently had this idea. I think I was on the plane, and you usually have these ideas when you're just calm, you're in the shower or meditate, the beginning of a meditation session. I don't care if my life ends with me giving more than I get.
Right.
Because I've always, like, growing up, I had this what can I get mentality, and now I'm like, what can I give? What can I give? And you're right. Things are coming back
and
times 10, times 20. So I don't care if I give more and the seesaw doesn't balance out, because that'll actually be a good thing if you think about it in a certain way.
It goes back to delayed gratification, right? So
Yes.
So one of the things, do things for someone without asking for anything in return. I have friends that want to be internet marketers, and they try to figure it out on their own by buying some like 1995 program that they saw on ClickBank. Instead of interning with someone who is already a successful internet marketer, they're like, "Oh yeah, I already know what he does. I already know it. I don't need to follow him." And it's like, you don't even know 1% of what he does.
You got to be humble.
Yeah, you have to be humble and be willing to delay gratification.
Find who you really admire, who's impacted your life, sports, YouTube, whatever, and learn from them. And I'm going to continue to do that until I get where I need to go, and then I'm going to keep learning. And it's constant and never-ending improvement. As he says, I want to ask you something, and that is, how can we give value? So I'm around a lot of successful people I admire a lot, and I want to genuinely help them, and I think that's the secret, genuinely want to help them. But what are some ways me and my audience, like, if they get in this situation in the future, because I hope you guys will, and I know you can, because I'm going to keep providing you the vehicle and the information to get you to that level. What can we do? What are some ways we can give value?
The most generic, because I don't know what everyone does for a living, but the most generic way to give value that I've seen is like in The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, where he talks about becoming a connector. So if you do that, if you become the guy who you know the guy with the flooded basement, and then you have a friend who's the plumber. Like, when you can make these connections, right? The guy who wants to start the LLC, and over here you have the tax attorney. like whatever it is, when you can make these connections and you're constantly the person who does that, it's going to build your value, and you're also always going to be offering value to other people. That's one of the things, the most powerful thing. Again, How to Make Friends and Influence People, which is basically a networking book. When I read that book and I realize like all the things that I can do for other people by just, hey, pointing them in the right direction to help them, because you can't help everyone. Again, do things for people without expecting anything in return, but you can't help everybody. And one of the things that's going to make you successful in life is when you learn when to say no, as opposed to when to say maybe. A lot of people will maybe you to death instead of just giving you a flat out no when that's really what you need to hear. Yeah, but doing that is probably the easiest way. And then the second thing, for as far as me, is giving value. Is I help run a charity in North Vegas called College Park Baptist Church Food Pantry. I try to get volunteers there every week, and then I try to include 3square.org in a lot of our events that we do with Viva Vegas TV. And it's not just the fact that we're giving to homeless and needy people in Northern Vegas. The other part of it is we're giving away for people in Vegas to give back easily, without having to like be scared the first time you go to the soup kitchen. You don't know what to do. You don't know where to volunteer. You don't know how to volunteer. We make it easy for people in Las Vegas to volunteer. I found that that's probably as big a service as we're doing as the food that we're giving out, is we're giving people a chance to volunteer. So, yeah.
Excellent. That's great stuff. Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate this.
Awesome.
This is probably one of the smartest guys I've had on here, and there's a lot more smarter guys coming on here. So it's exciting stuff. Take action. Go ahead, take action, because nobody cares. So allow that liberation to come. Be in the present more, because that'll allow you to take better action moving forward. Read a lot so we can become a lot smarter, right? Stand on the shoulders of giants, get mentors, and give without expecting anything in return. These are some keys he gave us. These are just a couple scratching the surface with him. Check out his YouTube. There will be a link below. What's your Instagram?
Everything is at Michael Sartain. So it's Instagram / @Michael Sartain, Twitter.com / @Michael Sartain, Facebook.com / @Michael Sartain, and YouTube.com / Michael Sartain.
Excellent. I hope to do another one of these. I had a blast. Good stuff. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Thank you. Appreciate
Certainly.
it.
Stay fresh. Stay blessed. Peace.